Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by a point. And there's the whistle. It's over. It's over.
Well, hello and welcome to the RTÉ GAA Podcast. We're back for our first review show of the season after the first weekend of the National Leagues. We'll talk hurling with Mikey Stafford and Shane McGrath in a little while. But first, to the weekend's football. Lots to pick through from the weekend. We're joined here in studio by Niall McCoy. Niall, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good, Cal. Thanks for having me.
And good to have Peter Canavan with us as well. Peter, how are things?
All good. Thank God, Cathal.
Thanks, Peter, for joining us this morning. As I said, lads, loads to pick through from the weekend. Really enjoyable stuff, I thought, across the entire weekend of the football action. We might jump off, Peter, with Mayo Galway out west. The weather cooperated this weekend, and the football did as well. It was a really, really good game.
It was. The longer it went on, the more exciting it got. And Páirc Joyce, his emotions after the game, he looked frustrated, during the post-match press conference. I guess that was with the amount of questions about the players that weren't there. But on the one hand, when I started watching the game last night, I was just jotting down how many players that were missing. He had more than half a team missing, established players. And when you think of those players, I'll just go through them. He didn't have Peter Cook, Killian McDade, Cian Darcy, Matty Tierney, Damien Comer, John Maher, Matthew Thompson, and Paul Conroy. Yet they still very nearly won the game, and they were well behind at one stage by 11 points. Yet his players responded. They got it back to 2 or 3 points. And in fact, I would say over the course of the game, they might have had 6 or 7 real good goal chances. So on the one hand, I know he was very disappointed after it, but he did get a kick out of a number of his younger players in particular, and they very nearly came away with the result towards the end of the game. Mayo were hanging on.
Yeah, they were. 3-18, 2-18 in the end, Niall. Mayo, though, looked good for long stages. Some of the newer players, Dara Byrne got his goal. Keane McHale off the bench as well, got a goal. Yeah,
I think Byrne in particular, what a debut for such a young lad. And he's just so jinky and stuff. But I think it was one of the scores he put in a brilliant block around the half-back line as well. So a really good start for him. Mayo looked excellent at times, as Peter alluded to there. They give up quite a few goal chances. I think Rob Henley had a brilliant match, but it's round one of the league's always very hard to really analyse because there's so few teams are at full strength. We're still very early in the season. It always seems to be those first 2 rounds, and then you go into the break, and then we hit the real stuff. But there is ramifications from round one as well. All of a sudden, you're looking at Galway. They have to go to Armagh this weekend, and they lose that. Suddenly, their league season takes a totally different sort of slant to going in. But it's and Peter alludes there to frustration. We saw from a few managers this week there. With Jim McGuinness was very frustrated afterwards in the press conference after a win against Dublin. And I suppose managers are still in that working out process. For Andy Moran, he seems to have worked out quite a bit. They looked really fresh, really sort of energetic this early in the season. Could have lost. There was still coughing up a lot of chances, but a Mayo fan winning in Galway, you're always going to be happy enough.
Yeah, and I wonder, Peter, from the style of play, what we can glean from Andy Moran's first league match in charge. Look at a couple of points from it. First of all, you mentioned the 2 pointers, Niall, that Robbie Henley kicked one huge one from almost 60 yards, I think, at one stage yesterday in the first half. And then those new players coming in. I thought Andy Moran made some interesting comments about having left-footed players playing in attack towards the end as well with McHale and Byrne. But from what we saw from Mayo was a little bit maybe like the Mayo of old, where there was that bit of chaos, Peter.
There was chaos, all right. And I don't know if that was planned from Andy's point of view, but 2 aspects of their play that stood out to me was, they very much attack-minded, and there was a purpose about their play up front. And Dara Byrne, I think they may have unearthed somebody who's capable of winning his own ball, taking his man on, and most importantly, kicking it between the sticks. And that by having a really effective inside player, and there's a potential that it looks as if they're going to persist with Aidan O'Shea in the full forward line.
Yeah.
If those 2 players could gel, that's a real positive, and it allows Ryan O'Donoghue to drift a wee bit further out the field, and especially with 2 pointers, he loves having a go at them. So their attacking play, massive positive. And the other thing that when they analysed the game, they'll go through the stats, and the most pleasing aspect was the damage they done on the Galway kick-out. I don't think Mayo will go through another game this year as dominant on the opposition's kick-out. I think at one stage in the second half, they were on the first 10 kick-outs, they might have won 9. And you wonder why they were getting scores. If you can dominate a team like that, it's inevitable you're going to put them on the back foot and they're going to get scores. Now, you can counter that to the point I made at the very start. Normally, Galway have the biggest 4 or 5 men around the middle of the field. If they did have the John Mahers and the Cian Darcy's and Killian McDade and all the rest back, then I don't think Mayo would have been as dominant. But I've no doubt that's one aspect of their game that Andy Moran and Paddy Talley, Colin Boyle will be very happy with.
Yeah, good start for them to get off to a winning start. Niall, you watched Armagh Monaghan this weekend. Armagh 127, Monaghan 18 points. Big start for Armagh. I think it was 125, was it, from play? They had 11 different scores. All things considered, that's a pretty good afternoon's work.
And 127 without a 2-pointer, which is unusual for such a high score. Strange sort of match, Cal. Felt like almost still like pre-season mode, to be honest with you. Monaghan down a lot of players, particularly in defence. I think 5 of the back 7, including the goalkeeper, were possibly debutants. So very inexperienced at the back, and it showed. Armagh were just able to run pretty much at will through the centre, and really 127, they left quite a lot of scores behind them too. Incredibly one-sided, probably the only game across the 15 games that were played that was a real one-sided. And I know Donegal obviously dominated for long periods, but just wasn't a particularly good game. It was a per game. Armagh were very dominant pretty much from 10 minutes in. Monaghan just weren't able to offer much, and Gabriel Bannigan has big issues going forward because I don't know when the Scottstown boys will come back. I'd imagine possibly not until round 3. I think after that performance there might be a bit of pressure to get them in for round 2. So Ryan O'Toole did play, but the rest obviously weren't there. Even after one game, you're thinking it's going to be a bit of a struggle. Just like to point out the performance of Andrew Murnan, who produced one of the performances at the weekend. I mean, between blocking balls at one end, winning kick-outs, scored 1-3. The goal was a fantastic finish. He was absolutely everywhere, and for a boy who spent about 8 or 9 years not being able to play because of injuries, this last couple of years have been a joy watching him, getting towards the tail end of his career. And as an Armagh man, I'm very happy he signed off for another year because he looks in some shape. But for Monaghan, I would be concerned, Cal, to be honest with you, because I just can't really see where these points are going to come. But as we've seen time after time, they've been the masters of escaping in Division 1 and finding a way, so hopefully they will come up with something. Yeah,
Monaghan have certainly performed well when they've been written off in the past. I was reading, Peter, I think Gabriel Bannigan said during the winter that at one stage there were 14 players absent from his panel, and a whole host of new players called in. I saw Monaghan had an awards night the other night where they honoured some of the players that have retired in recent years, and just see the depth of talent and the experience that they've lost. I guess the question is, can they absorb that and stay up in Division 1?
That's it. There were no ordinary players that did retire, and there was a big group of them. So I don't think there's very few counties could deal with that sort of loss. Monaghan certainly not one of them. They need everybody out, and I think Gabriel will be making the call on the Scottstown boys maybe sooner than he would have wanted. The home games in Division 1 are crucial. So yeah, they would have been disappointed losing, but the manner of the defeat, I think, really would have hurt them, and he will be looking at a response from them. After saying that, this is a very well-established Armagh side now. They, with Niall Grimley gone, I suppose the question would be who was going to come in and fill his shoes. And I think Andy Moran certainly put up the hand in that. He's played a lot of his football in full forward, so he's a good link player. He's a brilliant ball winner. And as we seen yesterday, he's very effective when it comes to scoring right, left. The goal he got was one of the highlights of the weekend. So they're in a good position. And the other thing, whereas a lot of counties you're looking at, who are they going to unearth? Mayo had Dara Byrne, Tomás Kennedy, and Kerry. Ethan Jordan, for example, has come in for Tyrone. But with Armagh, it seems to be a number of players that have been there are playing really well. And Niall mentioned Andy Moran. There was 2 other men who stood out yesterday. It was Cian McConville, who's been about for a while, in and out on the fringes. He seems to be playing really well and comfortable in his boots at the minute. And if he can continue that form, that's a major plus for our man. And the other man that's playing on the top of his game at the minute is Oisin O'Neill. Again, he's been thereabouts for a while as well, in and out of the team. But if he remains injury free, that's another massive bonus for Kieran McGeeney.
And I think that's a fair point. I think last year Armagh had only possibly one debutant, Darren McMullen, who ended up having a tremendous year, but just with no McKenna Cup and stuff, they didn't hand it out. So they're missing and they're down quite a few players even with injuries, but the boys that are coming in, as Peter said, Cian McConville, perfect example, has been coming on in games, has been getting 10 minutes here, there. He's been around the panel maybe 2-3 years at this stage, starting, looking a real scoring threat. He's amazing pace. Peter would have played against the father many times, Jim, and he's very similar. He's quite hardy for such a small boy as well, and they do seem to have that options. And there's a lot of questions over Armagh with Grimley stepping aside, Soupy stepping aside, what they're like, but there still is a depth to their panel there, and still very early in the season. There'll be much tougher games. There wasn't a card in Clonus, I don't think, of any description, which maybe sums up what sort of match it was, but it was a good start for Armagh. Armagh can't be anything but happy with how they started.
And they've really built a lot of depth in that panel, haven't they, in the last few years, and they're going to rely on that now. Kerry Roscommon, another tight game yesterday, maybe one that we didn't expect to be as tight as it was. Roscommon produced a big performance. It came down to that last play at the end, Niall, where Tomás Kennedy leapt up into the air and fisted it over the bar. Was it on time or not? The hooter was sounding right on that moment. But for Kerry to dig out the win in that manner, and with Kennedy very, very impressive at full forward as well. Yeah,
and I know people look at the point, but I look more about the goal that he scored.
That was a great finish,
It was like watching Kieran Donaghy in his palms. So he was absolutely fantastic hands, and to take that point over so many bodies for such a young lad, it was fantastic. And Eamon Fitzmaurice went through it on Alliance League Sunday last night that the hooter, they got the decision right, they got the timings of it right. So no issues there. I personally have an issue with what they've changed the hooter system to. I think last year's final play, I think there was no problem with that. I think the issue obviously is with teams maybe taking 2 or 3 minutes on that final play. If they're taking that time and they're not putting it out of play, there's something to be played for. There's the risk and reward of going for it or being turned over. So I have no problem with what happened yesterday, because that's what's in place. I would wish we had kept what we had last year, to be honest with you.
Peter, what's your take on that?
I'd be siding a wee bit maybe towards Niall's opinion. He's quite correct. A lot of people were not impressed last year that if the game was to be over after 70 minutes, it may have went on for a minute, 2 minutes possibly, depending on how long a team wanted to hold on to possession. The notion of kicking the ball rugby style into the crowd appeared uncouth, and a lot of people weren't a fan of that. So this rule was brought in to provide clarity, and it's clear enough when the time is up, the hooter goes, and that's it, unless you're in the motion of kicking the ball or unless it's a free kick. It's very effective in the ladies' game and is there without much controversy. But I've no problem with the rule. It's are we in a position to fully implement it? And that's where the problem is. You're depending on a number of groups being very much connected and together in this one. And if the referee is not in tune with the whoever's operating the stadium clock, then there's TV cameras as well. So there's a number of wee groups there that have to be working really tightly together. Otherwise, you end up with what you had yesterday. There was different times. I think the stadium clock was different than the TV cameras. But look, it was. There's a lot of controversy about it. I think the referee did get it right. He was in the motion of passing the ball. No issues there. But from a few things about it. First of all, you've got to acknowledge the catch. What an unbelievable catch from a young fella. What an unbelievable score just to win the game. From Roscommon's point of view, they can feel hard done by because it shouldn't have been a free in the first place. No. But they were naive. A minute before that, they had a chance to win the game, kicked it wide. They they could have made sure that Sean O'Shea kicked the ball from where the free kick was. He managed to get it in 2 or 3 yards, which helped him get it in a bit further. And they were naive in that they allowed Tomás Kennedy to get a run at it, to get the knee up. So he should have been prevented from doing that. But yet you have to admire the quality of the score to win the game. And look, that's the last thing the country needed, was Kerry to unearth a big full forward who can win his own ball and score. So it's not looking good for the rest of us.
Yeah, and I think Roscommon's response to that will be very interesting, because for all the praise, and we were talking before the show here about Heenan and his runs, his bursts were amazing. The leg power was sensational, but they still came away from a match with 0 points. So interesting to see. But I think without the Bridget's boys being involved in terms of a performance which is the case for most teams in week one, there'll be a lot of positives to take for Roscommon, and maybe they're not just going to be as close to the bottom or automatic relegation contenders as a lot of people have them. Home form obviously will be crucial.
They have a lot of quality, Roscommon. New management team as well. This year, still finding their feet, but all things considered, a good performance from them yesterday, even without getting something from the game. There were the 3 matches, lads, yesterday in Division 1. Then on Saturday at Croke Park, terrible weather on Saturday, but Donegal and Dublin served up a pretty decent match. Donegal shaded it in the end. Shane Malone got a great goal for them. Just on Jim McGuinness's comments after the game, I know he was questioned about their tactics, if you like, in the All-Ireland final last year, but he was very adamant that he's going to stick to his own plan and they're not listening to any outside noise.
Yeah, it's the sort of interviews we love on week one of the league to give us something to talk about. He was, I thought the questions were okay, to be honest, from the clips I saw online. I didn't think there was any real sort of nastiness or anything in the questions, but it obviously was something that's annoyed him, and it came out. His argument's fine. I think, but anyone who watched that final last year will look at the Paddy Clifford situation in particular and think that Donegal probably did get something major tactically wrong in that final, and it possibly cost him. You can make arguments for and against, I'm sure, but I would imagine Donegal will sort of, everyone was learning under the new rules last year. Jim's shown in the past that he can come up with a tactical plan that really takes advantage of things. So he's had another off-season now, another pre-season, working with the new rules to look really good in the pre-season in the McKenna Cup. They won by, a goal in the end. But really, in truth, it was if they had won by 7 or 8 points, I think people would have said it would have been a more fair reflection on the game. Dublin had spurts, but Donegal were a much better team. And in players like Michael Langan and Hugh McFadden at the moment, they have those big men that Peter references about Galway, and they have everyone. Donegal have monsters around the middle, really good footballers, and they can all take 2-pointers and options like that. So we know Donegal are going to be about and are going to be there until the end. Just interesting, Dublin, I think, scored 20 points. I was looking at the average score of the losing teams at the weekend are 18.92 points. So see, 19 points for the teams that lost at the weekend, or the 12 teams that lost. And people talk about teams have to hit that 20-point margin now. In inter-county 70-minute football, it's more like 25 points in truth. It's just the scoring rates are off the charts. Teams are going to evolve now with the 2-pointer, and they're learning all the time. I do think teams maybe haven't worked out the defensive side just yet, they're still learning on how to cope and how to stop. There's so many gaps in the matches I saw at the weekend on the inside forward line when teams were pushing out to defend the arc and they're leaving space in. And Meath in particular were running really well in those channels. Armagh were running in channels, didn't take advantage. So tactically, that sort of defensive set up against the 2-point is going to be one of the big stories of the season.
Was it just me? Was there more foot passing at the weekend as well? Certainly in Mayo Galway yesterday, Peter, there was a lot of long range balls in. There was one, for example, that Rob Finnerty got a goal chance out of when he hung in around the back.
Yeah, there's the chance to counter-attack, but the point that Niall made is very true. Teams are now practicing so much on the 2-pointers and the importance of the 2-pointers, and we've seen that even after week one. But the result of putting pressure on the outside arc is that you leave space inside, and if you have players in there who are capable of winning their own ball, you'd be foolish not to utilise them. And again, for all the talk about the 2-pointers and teams are kicking for shots from that area more, there were still plenty of goals scored throughout all the divisions of the league. I think there was 10 goals scored in Division 1, and the only 2 teams that didn't hit the net were lost. So it's becoming into a nice balance, and if teams are clever with their inside players, there's still going to be chances to score goals as well.
Which is why I don't agree with these calls for the 4-point goal to possibly make a return. I think Peter hit the word there, the balance. The balance at the moment, I think, is pretty spot on. There's been no major reduction. In fact, I think over last season, even as well, goals went up, and we've seen, as Peter said, there are plenty this year. So I think we've got a nice wee sort of balance between goals and points right at the moment.
Yep, absolutely. Just to touch on Division 2, lads, as well. Peter, Tyrone playing out a draw with Kildare on Saturday night. Kildare had a man sent off in the second half there, but they battled back to take a point.
Yeah, first of all, from Kildare's point of view, with a man down, and it looked as if, in all intents and purposes, this game was going to slide away from them. Tyrone regained dominance, looked to be in a really good position going into the last 10 minutes, but there was a kick in Kildare. They fought hard, and they not only did they get back to draw it, they had a chance at the very end to win the game, and they could have been leaving home with 2 points very easily. So Brian Flanagan will be happy with the response from his players. From a Tyrone perspective, this was one game that Division 2 is that competitive. Again, your home games in particular, you must be winning. And I know Tyrone were missing a few players, but their performance level, particularly in the first half, was nowhere where it needs to be winning Division 2. So a lot of food for thought. There's one or two positives, yes. The performance of Joey Clark at the back and Ethan Jordan up front, in particular, a highlight from a Tyrone perspective. But if they're to play like that against Derry on Saturday night, there'll be 1 point after 2 games.
Yeah, that's Tyrone. Now, what's your take on where they're at right now?
I find them a bit hard to work out just currently. Like, there's so many options. Like Joey Clark, another young lad coming through this conveyor belt, and it's just player after player. Michael Home, obviously the Canavans have been about for a few years, but there's just so much young talent coming through. Ethan Jordan has been fantastic for English. I think he scored 17 points or something silly in a match last year. It's hard to work out who their best team is, what their best 15, and I think not that any manager would ever turn down as many options as possible, but Malachy has a lot of options there and is putting that jigsaw together, which all Ireland winning teams tend to put players in who maybe aren't in people's first 15, wouldn't be, but they make the difference. And I think Malachy's still trying to work out a couple of decisions, who should be playing here. And again, it's very early days, it's very hard to judge this early, but there's still just not a question mark over the quality, just question mark over what Tyrone are about right now. And Derry, Ulster Derby, Derry have 0 points on the board, so there's going to be a lot of stake even after week 1 for 2 teams that were tipped to be in the promotion hunt. So the loser of that match is already facing an uphill battle to get into Division 1. So week 2, it's going to be a lot in the line. Yeah,
and you took in Derry Meath at the weekend as well. We asked the question on the podcast last week whether Meath could follow up on their performances of last year. They certainly answered that question on Saturday at Croke Park.
Yeah, and 20 minutes in, I wouldn't have expected. I thought Derry were actually really good in the first 20 minutes. It's I think it's 1 win in 18 in league and championship now, and that was beat Westmeath, sorry, and beat Mayo in penalties, apologies too. But Meath just took over after 20 minutes, and there a couple of 10 or 15 minute spells where they couldn't miss, and they're so powerful, and their big men can shoot. This is the thing, they've got this physicality, but they can shoot and they can take 2-pointers. And I think can't remember what minute McBride came in, but there's another player that's just a big physical man around the middle that really gives them option. And when they get in a run, they really go at it. And Derry, not that they didn't have any answer, but Derry were sort of slow, methodical, didn't really embrace the chaos where Paul Cassie kicked a beautiful 2-pointer. But apart from that, and some nice moments from McGuigan, it was all nice and controlled, where he just sort of went at it, and we're getting just the scoreboard was just ticking over, and that was the winning of the game. So I did think Derry for 20 minutes looked really good, but they're just struggling to close out games. Really struggling, and that's a pretty. Obviously didn't win a game last year. We're very competitive in the All Ireland group stage, to be fair, but it's a long time without a win, and that maybe seeps in. A lot of those matches they could have won, didn't win, and big match this weekend.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure. I guess when we talk about teams that have adjusted to the new rules, and even if we look back to last year, Meath were probably the team that you would have said that the new rules maybe suited most, but the team that also adjusted them maybe the quickest. And it looks like they've continued that on, Peter, with that win at Croke Park.
Yeah, I'd say they're playing like a team maybe that didn't quite or feel as if they didn't get the credit that they deserved for their performances and for some of their victories last year. And that a lot of people saying, well, they'll struggle when, even prior to the start of the league, the Division 2 contenders for promotion, and a lot of people's estimation was thrown in Derry. And that's despite the fact that Meath got to an All-Ireland semi-final last year, playing really good football. So I thought they were slow to get settled. They gave away a very careless goal to Derry. But after that, it was a really dominant performance. Yes, we expect physicality from Meath, and it was there in abundance. But there's quality to their play as well. And, Morris in particular up front, what the score that he got outside of his boot, again, the breeze for a 2-pointer in the second half.
That was unbelievable.
That
was an
was
unbelievable. He had an advantage, I think, if I remember correctly, but it was unbelievable. It was the best score of the weekend for me. It was magic stuff.
Yeah. So they have players who are capable, potential match winners and that as well. So they appear to be in a very good position. They need to back up last year's good championship, absolutely, but they appear to be on course to do that.
Yeah, they do, based on the weekend. Cork beat Cavan by a point. Then Stephen Sherlock, we saw him kicking 2-pointers or same fin bars in the club campaign. He repeated the trick off the bench yesterday. The conditions were great down at Páirc Uí Chaoimh for that one as well. For Cavan, Dermot McCabe, he had a lot of narrow losses as Westmeath manager last year, and that was another one yesterday. They were 7 points up, I think, at one stage yesterday.
Yeah. And quite late on, they're 7 points up. That one will sting. Just shows you can bring in someone of the quality of Sherlock and get him fair and just a difference. A match winner, literally a match winner for them. And we had no doubt he was going to nail that last one, to be fair. Just the quality he has. Cavan with McVeety looking really sharp. They played really good football, but that's a long trip home, having led by 7 late on and to not finish it out. But that's the way of football is. Since these new rules come in, it's just constant momentum shifts, and it's very hard. We saw it. The most obvious example in the All-Ireland quarter-final last year at Kerry, where they just humiliated Armagh a 13-minute spell, and it seems to be happening in every game now, and it's brilliant. Yeah. As a supporter, it's brilliant, because it's very few games now after 45 minutes you can say this team has the game won, and I suppose that's what we want as fans. We want to be there for 70 minutes, enjoying it, sort of not having an idea of the result, but a long trip up to back up to Breffni for the boys.
I think it was something like 10 games over the weekend that were either a draw or decided by a single score. So that's a reflection of how competitive the leagues are. And we've seen that in the last few years as well. But the standard of the football, I thought, was really high, Peter, over the weekend. And the weather probably been okay in most parts of the country yesterday, helped with that. But is it also a reflection maybe of counties now coming to terms and grips with the new rules as well?
Absolutely. It's a case of that. The tap and go now is used so well by so many teams, but set plays and tactics and the coaching of teams now is so important from a couple of areas. And regarding the new rules, the kickouts, if you don't have a goalkeeper and a team who know what they're about, it can be very difficult to secure your own kickout. And if you don't secure your own kickout, you're in trouble. You're open at the back. Your defence is all over the place, and there's a lot of teams, Armagh being one of them, Donegal being another, who if they can break down your kick out, they attack and show with so many numbers, and they can hurt you. And the other thing then is moving forward and getting the right players on the ball around the outside arc in order to create those one-on-one situations so that you can get the 2 points. So it's obvious that teams over the winter have been doing a lot of work on that, and players now are much more confident at shooting from distance as well, which maybe wasn't always the case. So look, it sets up in a very intriguing National League, but also moving forward to the Championship, those management teams with the shrewd tacticians and coaches, they're going to be key to them as well.
Yeah, they're going to be finding ways to try and exploit these new rules and make the most of them. But, well, if we could have more like we had this weekend, lads, I think we'd enjoy the rest of the National League.
Definitely. Bring it on.
Well, let's see how it all progresses. Lads, great to chat to you this morning. Thanks, Peter, for joining us, and Niall as well.
Thanks.
Holy Moses!
Now, time to talk hurling and look back at the opening weekend of the National Leagues. Mikey Stafford from the RTÉ Sport team has joined us in studio here, and Shane McGrath is with us as well. Lads, you're both very welcome. So 3 games in Division 1A at the weekend. Let's start down in Cork. Yesterday, Shane, Cork started with 10 shots, 10 points. They were 10-1 up after 12 minutes. Doesn't look like much of an All-Ireland hangover there.
No, it doesn't, but you could see by the team they picked, Cathal, like they wanted to get a performance, they wanted to get a result. I think they had to get a result because, sure, let's be honest, what happened in the All-Ireland final last year, if you went out yesterday and you lost, you know, maybe, albeit there was a huge crowd at it, maybe people are starting to question everything then. So I think Ben O'Connor did the right thing yesterday. He took no chances in regards that he went as strong as he possibly could and he got the performance to back it up. Like I was even just comparing the teams, to just maybe give people an idea, right? So who were Cork missing from the All-Ireland final? Well, in the backs, I suppose they were missing Owen Downey and Kieran Jice. Brian Hayes in the forwards and Tim O'Mahony midfield. But apart from that, everybody else was there. And even if you look at, we'll say, Brian Roach topped out for the All-Ireland final. I think he was number 22 on the day. So he was involved in the All-Ireland final panel. And William Buckley, who had an outstanding game, he was on the extended panel. So Cork went strong yesterday because I just feel, Carl, they just wanted to get a performance. They wanted to really just, sometimes it's hard to get over something until a new kind of season starts or you get a chance to prove yourself again.
Yeah. And Ben
Cork got a chance to prove themselves yesterday, and they did with a plum. 10 different scores, I believe. And the flip side of that is, I think most Waterford people knew going down yesterday they weren't going to win the game. Now, maybe they didn't expect the loss to the extent that it was, but Cork were strong. And if I mention a few Waterford names here who they didn't have, Tyler Burka, Paddy Levy, Caleb Lyons came on, but, you know, he's just back. Daisy Hutchison, obviously, Jack Prendergast, Patrick Fitzgerald. You know, Ozzie Gleeson is not involved this year. So they're missing a lot of bodies. They knew they probably wouldn't win, but maybe not expecting the loss to the extent that it was. So tough day for Waterford. But then from the Cork side of it, sure, what more could you ask of them? I thought one guy now in particular was sending out a message yesterday, lads. Decky Dalton, I suppose, was someone maybe, you know, that he was there, like, you know, he'd some good games and some below par games by his standards yesterday or last year. And I suppose yesterday he was picked a full forward. Normally you mightn't see him there. Normally see him in the half forward line. But I just have it down here that he scored 4 in the first 20 minutes. He scored 4 points. He assisted 1-1, and then he scored a penalty after that. So I think Decky Dalton.
And what a penalty!
Ben O'Connor yesterday, he's like, "Hey, I want to be on this team." So look, can't ask much more from Cork. For Waterford, it's tough. Like, and what's tougher for Waterford, lads, is that next weekend Limerick are coming to Walsh Park. So, you know, it's a very unforgiving league, I suppose, at 1A, like, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And Peter Queally said as much after that. He was disappointed with their start in particular, and that the game was pretty much done after 20 minutes. I was interested in Ben O'Connor's comments after that. He was very keen just to get yesterday out of the way, which I thought was an interesting comment.
Yeah, it kind of betrayed maybe a few. He said there was no nerves or whatever, but I guess if you're a Cork manager coming in on the back of how Cork's season ended, there was a lot of focus on him. There's always a lot of focus on the Cork hurling manager, but I don't think there's ever been as much focus on a Cork hurling manager as there was, like, the way in which they lost the All-Ireland final, all the rumours that were swirling around about the half-time of the All-Ireland final, and then there was a lot of rumours around Ben O'Connor and how his reign started, and maybe that's, the lads on League Sunday were saying they were surprised Waterford did get a bit closer to Cork lads, but sure, the rumours were that if you got anywhere near a Cork hurler after the pre-season training they had, they'd get you in a rear naked choke or something, and they'd jiu-jitsu the hell out of you, because this is what we were hearing. The Cork lads weren't hurling at all. So maybe I can see why Ben O'Connor was probably just, once the hurling starts, Shane, I know better than anyone, once the hurling starts, the noise stops to an extent and you can just focus on the hurling. So I'd say he was delighted. And you mentioned that they wanted a result, 20,000 people there. You could see it with Tip as well. Tip really wanted to get a win for the first day now, and it was Galway, like a rival that they would see for whether league honours or someone they could meet later in the All-Ireland. But like Liam Cahill wasn't happy to have his victory, have his lap of honour and then take an arrow of defeat. He wanted it for the fans as well because it was their first home game, so winning the All-Ireland. Like, you could tell that both All-Ireland finalists, maybe for different reasons, they really, really, really wanted to win those first games.
From a Cork style point of view, lads, did we see anything different from Cork under Ben O'Connor, Shane, yesterday, did you think?
I didn't see it too much different. Like their pace of hurling for this time of the year. Now, Páirc Uí Chaoimh allows for that.
Yeah,
right?
it helped, didn't it? Yeah.
The pitch, because if that match is on in any other pitch yesterday, bar an AstroTurf pitch, nobody's hopping the ball off the ground back into their hand. Like McCoy scored a point yesterday, hopped the ball off the ground straight into his hand. Most other pitches around the country, there was games called off, games that had to be moved maybe in some pitches. But if you hop the ball into the ground, chances were it was going to take 3 or 4 lads to try and find it rather than the ball actually coming back up to you. So I think the quality of the pitch in Páirc Uí Chaoimh and the way it played yesterday helped Cork the way they played. I didn't see anything too different. I still think that, they have the 3 boys inside and they like to leave a bit of space in front of them with Alan Connolly, Decky Dalton, William Buckley. I think that was more or less what they were doing last year with Brian Hayes and Alan Connolly and Hoggy in there. Interesting to see Alan Connolly taking the frees yesterday. Obviously, that's something that they're going to have to think about. Darragh Fitzgibbon takes him as well. I didn't see anything too different from what we saw last year with them. They're obviously a top. They're unreal ball to hand. The pitch allowed them to help it. So I think it was more the same from last year. I thought Don Logue made a great point last night to tell you. He just said, like Pat Ryan has built savage foundations with the group, and Ben O'Connor is going to come in and he's going to build further on that and put his own stamp on it as well. So there's a lot of good work has been done with the group, and Ben O'Connor is going to put his stamp on it, and he'll change things. He'll tweak things as they go. But as far as I'm concerned, yesterday I didn't see anything too different from what we've seen from Cork for the last few years anyway, Kyle.
Yeah, Waterford well off it in the early stages. We said that they were 10-1 behind Mikey early on. It was pretty much over at that stage, but they did hang in there. Were there flashes of promise for them, do you think?
Oh, well, they were very, very surprising how they played in the first half. It was, you kind of flicked it on and it was excited, and as Shane said, the pitch looked great. 20,000 people there. All right, okay, this could be decent. And after 10 minutes, like, what's wrong with Waterford? And then, they are missing a lot of players, but they just, and I suppose it can happen in the first league game if you're not keyed in. They didn't appear to be at the pitch of it. The league is the league, etc. But Cork were at a pitch that Waterford just weren't. But Waterford had too many good hurlers to allow that to continue, and they did come into it a little bit, and it was a fairly bloodless second half. Now Cork were never stretched. They never thought they were in any danger. And Peter Queally, he'd be hoping to get the Ballygunner contingent back, but despite their utter dominance, Ballygunner aren't bulk suppliers to the Waterford hurling team either. Those lads coming back aren't going to change everything. They've got a few injuries, obviously, but I think they are going to struggle. Division 1A it's a hard division to stay in.
Yeah.
As a Wexford hurling fan, it's a hard division to stay in if you're even that little bit off, and they looked more than a little bit off there yesterday.
Yeah. The other game yesterday in Division 1A was probably was it more competitive than we expected to be? Offaly put up a good show against Kilkenny, Shane, down in Nolan Park.
Yeah, and I suppose no more so in yourselves. I wasn't at it. I just seen the clips there last night on the telly, but I was just speaking to one of the Offaly lads, Brian Carroll. And Brian was saying, that they would be very happy with the performance in Offaly. Say, you take Liam Hoare in the goals there yesterday, I thought he was immense. Mark tries their normal goalie, but that'll be great competition there for them now to push on. The other big thing, I suppose, for Offaly people is that they have 11 lads now that have progressed from their under-20 teams from the last couple of years. So they're definitely looking to youth and building on it. And the other thing that people might realise is Offaly are without 3 or 4 of their very, very best hurlers at the moment through injury and illness. So, Kieran Burke is missing, Killian Sampson, Charlie Mitchell. They're all massive, massive losses. So, to be as competitive as they were and, maybe be unlucky the way the last maybe especially 5-6 minutes went, maybe just tired a bit with the pitch and everything. But they had some great performances around the field. Obviously, Adam Screeney is the marquee name down there, and in fairness to him yesterday, he had a really good game yesterday, worked hard, clipped a couple of points from playing, was good on the frees, but I think Offaly will take great confidence from it. Their next game now is they're welcoming Tip to town next week, so there's no love lost between Offaly and Tip people, as I don't know if you realise that, but there was never down through the years, so there's always a bit of bite when it comes off Offaly and Tip. Barack Obama Plaza is
Shane, again, remind us
in County Offaly, I believe. So
which counties is there not a bit of bite with Tipperary? It's a short list.
We don't have any real bite with Leitrim as far as rest I think we have, yeah. So I know. Look, I think Offaly will take confidence from it. I know, did you hear Johnny Kelly's comments after the game, lads, about the schedule being hectic?
Yeah.
I'd agree with him, and I'm involved with the Fitzgibbon team myself, and I have to say the intercounty managers are brilliant to deal with. They really are, because most of them played Fitzgibbon, and most of them know how important the competition is and how good it is for lads to be playing it. But I mean, if there's anything we could do to try and give lads a bit more of a chance, I would say these pre-season competitions, I think they wouldn't be for me. You're putting another 2-3 games on lads when maybe you don't have to. In particular, maybe the lads playing Fitzgibbon. So I'd agree with a lot of the county managers there. I think the thing is very busy. I know it was split season, people say it is what it is, but if there's something you could do to free up a bit of time, I think that would be it. Pre-season comps, you don't have them. They don't need to be there. And look, as I said, I have to say the county managers, from my dealings with them anyway, are brilliant to deal with in terms of getting guys to play fits, and because they realise the importance of it. But I fully agree with Johnny Kelly saying there yesterday. Like, you know, it is very, very hectic going on some of the players, not all, but on a lot of them. Like.
Yeah, that's a fair point, and heavy pitches as well that they're dealing with in many cases too. From a Kilkenny point of view, Mikey, I think they had 13 wides yesterday. Owen Cody hit 10 points. It's a win, I guess, but they may not be overly happy.
They're never overly happy in Kilkenny. That's why they're good. They didn't score from play for 14 minutes at the start of the game. That's astonishing by Kilkenny standards. Now, again, you could say this, like, you could just have you get a template in place for pretty much every team. Everybody's missing a few players. The astonishing one in Kilkenny, though, is, and it seems Mikey Carey did a good job of fullback, Hugh Lawler's gone travelling. Do you ever remember a Kilkenny player going travelling when Brian Cody was in charge? You know, Charlie Carter had to retire to get a few days off.
Do you know, like Liam Neeson? He would find them and he'd track them down and bring them back.
He had to retire. I'm just going to retire. He probably just wanted to go to Vietnam for a week or something. It was like, no, you can't go traveling. Okay, I'm just going to retire. I'll come back next year. So Hugh Lawler, I think we, you know, everybody loves Hugh Lawler and thinks he's just, you know, follows in a proud line of absolutely no nonsense Kilkenny fullbacks. So they will miss him. But Mikey Carey is a phenomenal hurler. You won't worry about the spine of the Kilkenny team as ever. Like, they'll be full of just accomplished, very experienced inter-county hurlers. But I suppose it's just the fact that they've fallen short on the biggest stage for, you know, a decade now. Pretty much, it's the 3 or 4 positions, that extra few percent that Derek Lyng's going to be looking for during the league. And I don't think he'd be overly upset that he had to work hard against Offaly on a atrocious looking pitch in Nolan Park. They're going to get better. They're going to be the best team in Leinster, and they're probably either going to win the All-Ireland or more likely get beaten by the team that wins the All-Ireland, which isn't going to make them happy, but they're steady. But I guess Kilkenny folk are probably a bit sick of them being kind of steady now. They probably want that. They want to see a breakout season from them, and you know, yesterday's performance doesn't mean that they're a lost cause by any means.
I hope Hugh Lawler has so much crack travelling that about 10 or 12 of them decide that they might give it a go next year. So that would be the hope from a Tip point of view anyway. And
you might pay for the holiday, Shane, yourself too.
No bother, yeah.
Tipperary 121-116 against Galway in front of the RTÉ cameras on Saturday night. Shane, what did you make of the performance?
Well, like Cork, Tip went fairly strong, didn't they? So I think they wanted to get this win at home as well. First game at home since, you know, winning All-Ireland, and the weather was atrocious at it. You know, the pitch in fairness was as good as could be, but obviously it was tearing up as the game went on. But good win for Tip. When Galway look back on it, I think it was, albeit they didn't get the result, I do think it was a win for Galway in a lot of ways, Carl, right? Yeah. You think about it, right? This time last year going Salt Hill, Mahal Donoghue tried something similar in regards. He gave a lot of new faces or a lot of lesser known guys a go, and it didn't work at all. And what happened then after that was he just kind of had to go back really to the tried and trusted. Whereas the other night, all the lads he gave a go to, like they did brilliant. Like, and Liam Cahill even said it, like in comparison to this where they were this time last year, there's great progress being made. There's a new bunch of lads coming through. They're hungry for success. They don't seem fazed by anything. You know, can't be breeding either. Jason Rabbit, Joe Rabbit's son there, you know, almost identical to him. In Joe Rabbit used to wear the ash guards, and you know, Jason has a guard on the hand as well. And even the way he wears the Cooper or the way he carries himself, it's just a carbon copy of his father. And Aaron Niall there in the full forward line as well. You know, that was like Aaron Niall for me is going to be a class come the summer months, come championship, when ground is hard, when he's getting a good quality ball in. But when he had to show a bit of fight, in fairness to the chap now, he went and he won ball when he had to do it. And I just thought all over the field, Rory Burke, great goal, like as well.
Yeah.
I just thought Mahal Donoghue, even though they didn't win, like they had 14 wides, the game was level 11 times. And I just think he's coming away going, do you know what? Good bunch here now. And I'd say you'll see a lot of those lads getting the go again next week. And like next week's a great opportunity for these lads again.
Their starting 6 forwards were under 23.
Yeah.
Is, you know, it's a fair stat.
There would be a lot of them, Mikey, would be unknown to maybe the more casual hurling fan. So I think it was a great performance by Galway. I think Tip did what they had to do, in fairness, and the bigger gun stood up. I thought Jake Morris was brilliant. Interest here before the match. So his grand uncle Martin passed away that morning. But I suppose what people mightn't realise is Sam O'Farrell actually buried his grandmother Wednesday afternoon. And what did Sam O'Farrell do Wednesday evening? Went out and scored 9 points for NUIG in the Fitzgibbon. And I just think, you know, that often we don't hear these stories about these lads, you know, but like probably that's probably what his granny would have wanted him to do. But still, he went out and did it, and what Jake Morris did the other day, and it's the same all over the country. These lads, you know, even though they're amateur, you know, but the way how much the game means to lads, like, you know, to play for your county, that they're going out playing these games, because I suppose that's what these people would have wanted for them. But job done for Tip. As I said, go to Offaly now next week, but I have no doubt about it. Liam Cahill wanted to get a win, and he got the win. And do you know what? He tried out a couple of guys, didn't work out for Jack Leamy. You know, just didn't fall for him. I think Jack's going to be good. But in Cathal O'Reilly, lads, we have a serious defender. This guy was captain of the minors 2 years ago. He was on the 20s last year. He's a lovely guy. I suppose I got to know a lot of them lads because my brother's been coach of the minors there for the last 6 or 7 years, and he'd be going to all the matches and maybe just meeting them afterwards. And Cathal O'Reilly's a kind of a fella, he'd smile at you while absolutely tattooing you at the same time. And that's the way he is. Lovely guy, but he'll do whatever he has to. And I just think the block he made, it's been well seen there on social media, and it was highlighted by the lads. This guy's one for the future, and you know what? He's going to push maybe the likes of Robert Doyle or Mikey Breen or these guys a bit more now to go to another level, because if they don't, well then, you know, Cathal Riley's going to come into the fold. So I think that was a big positive for Tip as well, lads.
Judging by the amount of ground he made up on Rabbit to make that block, he put the wrong hurler up against Charlene Maudsley there last July. He would have been the guy to take her on in a race, I think.
No comment.
Just trying to judge Liam Cahill's comments afterwards as well, Shane. He seems to be happy enough with where Tip are at coming into the new season.
He is, like, and they probably don't have the same maybe bank of work as what they had this time last year, but they wouldn't be far off it. And like, to be honest, like these guys, the way they mind themselves anyway, you know what I mean? There's none of them coming back with the bellies hanging out over the cogs, you know, like maybe like we were before after the winter. But you know, they're all minding themselves, and they know exactly what they need to do in terms of S&C, because they've all been exposed to it since they're really 15, 16 years of age now in the modern stuff. Like, so they're all coming back in good shape. They would have minded themselves, and like it was a strong Tip team, you know, for a first round in the league. It was strong, but at the same time, what would you rather be here today? Would you rather be saying Tip went strong and won it, or Tip didn't go strong and didn't win it, and now you're under pressure going to Offaly? So I think Liam Cahill got exactly what he wanted out of the game. Maybe worrying about Robert Doyle having to go off with the injury he picked up, no more so for Darren Morrissey on the Galway side. But I think there was a lot of boxes ticked for Liam Cahill, and you know, there was a good enough crowd at it. You wouldn't have the same crowd as what you had below in Cork, but you know, there was still around 8,000 people there. So we hope, get a good crowd, a good atmosphere in Tullamore there next weekend as well.
Yeah, I'm sure that they will. Let's go to Division 1B then. Mikey, Wexford. Late drama in terrible weather as well on Saturday night.
People always going about the West Coast and the Western Seaboard. It's those Leinster hurlers that have it bad. You see the pitch in Nolan Park there yesterday, and then Wexford Park on Saturday evening was brutal. Not something you'll hear an opposition supporter say very often, but I feel quite sorry for Davy Fitz and for the Antrim hurlers. Remember a few years ago, Davy had to be put in a box in Wexford Park because he had a sideline ban. It's a good thing Davy wasn't in a box on Saturday evening, because he would have broken it into splinters. Lots of people probably saw the clip on social media afterwards of him literally jumping up and down on the spot in fury. It did look a bit... You saw some fairly grainy footage of it on League Sunday last night.
Yeah.
It's hard to see why a last minute free was brought forward as far as it was brought forward, for whatever delaying the taking of it. Mayor Ferner being on the pitch, the Antrim player giving out about the Mayor Ferner being on the pitch. What did the Antrim player say to the referee to get it brought forward that much? Because the only way Wexford could get a result was a goal. A point wasn't enough for them.
It was 8 minutes into injury time, wasn't it?
And in Mark Fanning, they have a player who is accomplished at doing exactly what he did. So I can see why Davy was furious. I'm delighted Wexford got a result, because honestly, with the diminished squad Wexford have this year, if staying out of Division 2 in the Joe McDonough, I'll be happy enough. So a home win over Antrim, we're one step towards Plan A, Goal A.
Yeah, tough one for Antrim, Shane, to lose in that manner, and then the long trip home after that won't have been an easy one to take.
No, tough one. Terrible way to lose a call, great way to win it. But I suppose the positive Davy would take out of it, like they gave a great performance. Like I was saying, one of the lads at home here, he has a saying, like, the weather was so bad you wouldn't put a rumour out in it. So, fair play to Mark Fannin. He still had to come down the field after everything that was going on and strike it, and he did. But I just think next week, like with Clare coming to town for everything that goes with Davy and Clare, what he did for him as a player and a manager, and himself and Brian Lohan, that whole thing, and like having to go to Dunley, it's very, very, very tough. Like for any team to go up there. I just quick funny story. I remember it's over 20 years ago now. We went up to Cushendall to play Antrim in a league match, and the weather was horrendous, and there was a right crowd at it. I think the final score, I looked at it last night, was 111 to 1-7, right? So it was absolutely cashing out conditions and maybe some of the hurling. But I actually wasn't supposed to play, and I ended up running in and out to Dara Egan was hitting the freeze with the towel. And but I had the gear with me just because we were doing a bit of a training, but I wasn't told out to play. And I suppose as the match went on anyway, Babs Keaton was the manager, and he said, how injured are you? Like, and I said, Ginny, I don't know now, we'll see. So anyway, long story short, I did the towel in the first half for Dara Egan, and I ended up playing in the second half. And Owen's land from Toon got out of jail. But it's just funny, because if you told that nowadays someone that you weren't togged out in the first half, you were bringing in basically the water and a towel, and ended up coming on the second half. So you wouldn't see it. You wouldn't see it at Junior C nowadays. But look, that's just the way it was that day. We were actually down a load of bodies as well, between injuries, and maybe some of the lads just didn't want to do the journey up the north. But what I'm trying to get to here, a tough place to go up to Dunley or Cushendall, try and get a result. And I'd say Antrim will be they'll be looking to get something out of that next week, and Clare will have to go up, and they'll have to be right for it, or otherwise they'll get turned over up there.
Yeah, and Clare named a strong enough team to play Dublin yesterday, and Dublin named a strong team as well. It developed into a really good match down in Cusack Park. Clare just about edging through at the end. Tony Kelly with a late goal.
Yeah, no, it was an entertaining match, and as I say again, the Western Seaboard, Cusack Park didn't look as horrendous as some of the other grounds, and it was a really good game. You could tell Dublin benefiting from getting Owen O'Donnell back from that struggling outfit that is the Dublin footballers. He makes a hell of a difference. With Hugh Lawler off in his flip-flop somewhere, you could argue Owen O'Donnell's the best fullback. We couldn't even argue. You could make a very strong case for him being the best fullback in the country. So he gives, Dublin are just Clare are a big, strong, powerful team, but Dublin are a match for anybody now. They really are from the full back line to full forward line. They are a big, strong team. They may be kicking themselves now because as a defensive tactic goes, leaving Tony Kelly completely unmarked, 30 yards from goal, wasn't the best idea. It was a great finish, but my God, how maybe I'm doing him a disservice. He found the space himself, I'm sure, but it was a lovely finish. But you're just looking, how the hell are you leaving Tony Kelly this free with the match in the melting pot? But yeah, it was a good game, and despite the defeat, you're probably looking at the two teams going up to Division 1B. Like, it's very hard to make a case for anybody else.
Seems to be the general consensus, all right. But from a Dublin point of view, I think they were 3 up, Shane, with about 15 minutes left to play. They'd worked themselves into a very good position. They'd be disappointed maybe not to have got something from it.
Yeah, they were now, and 3 points up on minute 55 I have here anyway, Cathal. But in fairness to Clare, they got the next 4 points in a row, 2 from Mark Rogers, 2 from Tony Kelly. I think Dublin, I think a lot of teams, lads, when you look around at all the starting lineups, most teams went as strong as they possibly could for this game. For these games, Tip went strong, Cork went strong. I think Clare went strong. I think Dublin went very strong. They had a lot of their main players. So Niall Calacan, I'd say, be disappointed they didn't get a result out of it. So if I just look at the fixtures, then next week they have Kildare. Obviously, Kildare's first run out. They'll obviously fancy that. To win that. That's on in Parnell as well. So I just thought a few players that we always mention Donald Burke. I think he's getting a good crack at he's had tough injuries there now, last year, but he's getting a good run of it now, and he scored 11 points. But I thought if there's one guy in particular for me that's really establishing himself as a top player, is Brian Hayes. Brian Hayes scored 1-3. Just even myself as a midfielder, if you're getting 1-3, you got to do a lot of things right. You got to be in a lot of right positions. You got to have a really good reading of the game, and things have to fall for you. But I think Brian Hayes now is a guy that when you see him, when Niall Calacan is sitting down to pick his team, when it goes to that midfield area, Brian Hayes is just without a shadow without starting. And I think he's really established himself now as a top player. And I thought he was excellent for Dublin. I thought Donald Burke was really good, as we mentioned. From a Clare point of view, as a performance, as a team, I think they'll be very disappointed. I know it's first day out and everything, but there'll be a few of them there will be disappointed. I thought Dermot Ryan and Conor Cleary were very solid in the backs. They don't want to give the whole year either, hoping that Tony Kelly will get him out of trouble either. And that'll be their own standard set as well within the group. He's just unbelievable. He's Clare's best hurler ever, in my opinion. I know a lot of people make an argument for the lads in the 90s, like the Shawnee Mack, Jamesy, or these guys, but just to see him yesterday, quite enough by his own standards in the first half. But as the game went on, and even when Tony Kelly's quiet, he's still scoring 1-3, 1-4, and just the way he took the goal, step inside, bury the top corner. When him and Shane O'Donnell are on the field, lads, together and they're ticking, Clare always have a chance. But it's getting them on the field together with the injuries and with the miles on the clock. I think that'll be a big challenge for Brian Lohan this year with the two boys. But when they are there and when they're ticking, Clare will be a big force this year with those boys on the field.
Yeah, they still have the personnel. There's probably a question, I know the lads were talking about it on television last night as well, defensively for Clare, that number 6 position in particular to fill that gap. John Conlon has occupied it, Shane, for quite a while. Who's the man to fill it this season, do you feel?
I don't know. I'd love to see Dermot Ryan get a go at it. I just think athletically he has the ability. Now, you probably lose that attacking force that he gives you playing a 5 or 7, and he's very good at picking off a point. But I'd love to see Dermot Ryan get a go at it anyway. I think Conor Cleary and behind him at 3. And if the two of those are, whoever is 3 and 6, I think they're just going to have to be left there and let the experiment play out over a few games between whatever opposition. I think that's maybe one of the advantages of 1B too, lads, is that you could try these things. You don't have the same quality of opposition every week. So I'd love to see Dermot Ryan get a go at 6. I just think he would tick a lot of boxes. He's very comfortable on the ball. He's a good defender. He's a physical guy. So be interesting to see if he got a go and Conor Cleary in a 3. I think the two of those would be a really solid spine to your defence there, lads.
Yeah, so Clare off to a winning start, and Carlow beat down in Division 1B as well. But that's it for the weekend's hurling action, lads. Thanks very much.
No worries.
Possession crucial from this. How much longer will the referee allow? Dublin lead by